Good evening and welcome to One on One Nightly. It is one on one in the middle of the week. I'm Chris Bacciu with Jack Roche, and we're pleased to be with you on this Wednesday afternoon, just a day before the eve of Christmas. Jack, happy holidays. How are you on this winter season? And the start of the NBA, we go league-wide, and it's tipping off everywhere now. Basketball is here.
It's really the perfect Christmas gift, just to have the NBA back, and throughout this whole crazy off season, and just with all the events going on, it's great to see some basketball back.
Yeah, and we didn't see it so long ago in the bubble. Now it's back, and we have all the teams back in the mix. That includes the New York Knicks, who, by the way, trail the Pacers 97-90 right now. A formidable showing for them against a good Indiana team, but right now they're down 7. Still a lot of game left. I think 8 minutes there, and a couple of takeaways. But Knicks are a story. Nets are, of course, a story, who come out on opening night, play very well against the Golden State team. Another story here in the NBA right off the bat is James Harden and everything that has gone on with that saga. There's sort of a new chapter there. So a lot to look at in basketball. I know you're watching the Celtics. You're a Boston guy. Tell me about the Celtics.
Well, if you hear anything, that's my crazy Celtics family upstairs. Opening night for them, all eyes are on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're looking to make up for the production lost in the departure of Gordon Hayward. He's now in Charlotte. No Kemba Walker. So you're going to see a lot of young players for that Celtics team, and you're going up against the toughest team in the East, in the Bucks. So,
and Eastern Conference that is really intriguing. I think especially when you get past the first 5 or 6 teams, and then sort of the last 2 spots are interesting. And we were even talking before the show about, are the Knicks a team that plays for that? I think it opens an interesting conversation. I don't know that we have anybody in the FUV program who's a Knicks optimist, but I'm certainly one of the people who tell you that they should be in the conversation. If they're not in the conversation, then they're not taking the step forward that they need. The Tom Thibodeau era begins tonight, of course. The Obi Toppin era begins tonight. And speaking of Toppin, his numbers, not great tonight. 3 for 12 from the field. He's got 23 minutes. I think interesting, Jack, here, and we could start with the Knicks. Emmanuel Quickley, 12 minutes, a guy who looked really good in the preseason, and he's only got 5 points, but it looks like Thibodeau's going to utilize him as opposed to a Frank Ntilikina, as opposed to a Dennis Smith Jr. So I think this is a sign that the Knicks are moving toward a meritocracy, and they've got the new president in Leon Rose. They've got the new coach. So this is a team that just needs to take a step forward. They've been in neutral for so long as one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. And to me, they just can't end up in the cellar again. They just have to find a way to climb.
I agree, Chris. And when you bring in a guy like Thibodeau, it indicates that you're looking to turn that corner. He's not a guy that you're just going to tank and get a good pick and then go from there. I think when you bring in Tibbs, it ushers a new era. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he utilizes that rookie Obi Toppin, because they certainly do have other players at his position in Julius Randle and even Kevin Knox. So with a coach that is somewhat reluctant to play a rookie right from the get-go, it's going to be really interesting to see how he finds his role within that team.
So right now they trail 11 to the Pacers. You mentioned Knox, who's been a disappointment. RJ Barrett, the first round pick from last year, having a good night. He's got 28 minutes on the floor, which him and Randall have the most minutes. He's 9 for 12. He was 9 for his first 9. This is a guy who's got to take a step forward for them. They expect it. Is this a team in your mind that competes for an 8th seed? Is it possible that we're talking about them come playoff time? If we get there, I mean, I shouldn't say if. That's pretty pessimistic. We're gonna make our way there. But obviously, There are going to be cancellations and postponements, but the NBA will find a way. They were able to in more trying circumstances last time. So when we get there, are the Knicks knocking on the door for an 8 seed?
Well, all eyes are on RJ Barrett, right? There's a lot of pressure on RJ Barrett to take that leap, get to that next level. And I am not afraid to bash the Knicks, but I just don't see that as necessary. He is 2 years younger than Obi Toppin. And trust me, if he plays as well as he is right now, it's going to be a real possibility for the Knicks to reach that 8th seed. But I really think that Thibodeau needs to bring stability to that team. And it's not a prerequisite for them to make the playoffs for that to happen. You can be knocking on that door without necessarily making the playoffs, and that is a victory for the Knicks as a season.
I think that's true, and our producer Alex Bowles was getting into it beforehand. Thibodeau, a guy who could give this franchise some respect, give them some respectability as opposed to a team that's been on the tank. You can't attract free agents if you're tanking. You can't take the leap that this team ultimately wants to take in the world's most famous arena. So we'll see if it happens. And we're going to be keeping a close eye on the New York Knicks, but it's just exciting to get started around the league. We'll look at some of these scores here because there's, by my count, what is this, 6, 7, 8 games going on right now. The Wizards leading the Sixers by 3 with 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. The Cavs up big on the Hornets, 114-97. Hornets team that's tried to make a stride here. Your C's, the Celtics, 80-73 over the Bucks with 5 minutes in the third quarter. That's a good look. Out west, the Spurs 66 to the Grizzlies 53 at halftime. Pistons 55 to the Timberwolves 50. Magic up 2 on the Heat right now. Okay, we'll keep our eye on that with 6 minutes to go there. Like I said, Pacers up 11 on the Knicks. Raptors up 4 on the Pelicans. Hawks up big on the Bulls, 83-59. So let's go to last night, though, because this is what everybody's talking about. You had opening night in the NBA primetime. A little bit of a weird thing seeing the rings get handed out with nobody in the arenas, but we've become very familiar with it. It almost isn't weird anymore. But the Lakers get their rings, and then they lose to the Clippers. So although I should say that was the night game. But what happened first was the Brooklyn Nets stamped the Golden State Warriors 125-99. This was our first look at Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and they gave everybody a look at what this team might be all about this year. And this team looks very serious and as dangerous as they look on paper. Last night was just a show that they're as legit as they look.
Yeah. 5 minutes into that game, after Durant had put up 10 points, it hit me. This guy hasn't played in an NBA game in 18 months. And he came back from an Achilles injury. No guy other than Dominique Wilkins has ever come back from that injury. That's arguably the most devastating injury in sports. And man, he has not missed a step.
Yeah, and with Durant, I don't want to say that there are doubters out there, because anybody who knows anything knows who Kevin Durant still is. But after the injury, people aren't talking about him as a top 3 player in the association. I believe he is, and here he wants to show it, and he's going to show it. And then there's sort of this dynamic with Kyrie, who seems to be saying he's going to be a less me guy. He drops 26 and looks very good last night. Durant 22. You've got 2 superstars there. You've got a good supporting cast: Dinwiddie, LeVert, Joe Harris. So here's a Brooklyn team that I think faces an interesting question on the James Harden front, because the Rockets are sort of at a place where they've almost got to deal James Harden. I mean, they could be good with him, but it's becoming more and more fractured. The news of the day, Harden, there's video footage of him in a strip club. He claims it's not. I don't know that it ultimately matters. But he's fined $50,000. In other news, the Rockets aren't playing tonight. Their game against the Thunder's postponed. They don't have 8 players because of COVID protocol, so they can't play. He's obviously on the block, and the Rockets are shopping him. Is this a Nets team that really should be mortgaging some of the supporting cast, some of the depth that they have, and some of the first-round picks that this would require for James Harden to become a part of a big three in Brooklyn?
Even before the most recent Harden news, right? Like, you're getting pennies on the dollar for Harden.
Right.
He has not helped his situation for the Rockets reward. So it is definitely not out of the question for the Nets to give up a package of LeVert and Dinwiddie and picks. But honestly, after watching last night's game, I don't think that move makes a ton of sense for Brooklyn. I feel like the offensive output is there and they have a deep bench. And honestly, I feel like they're sacrificing too much to acquire a guy like James Harden that just helps a strength that they already have.
Yeah, and they're in a place where, especially after winning by 25 points on night one, where they could see what they have here, and I think they know what they have. But also, I don't know the why rush to pull the trigger on something like that. And I just the idea of having a third piece like that. How does the ball get shared between Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant? I honestly can't imagine it. I know that no one would complain about having 3 of the game's best, but there's got to be a timeshare problem there as well.
Yeah, it just, when you analyze it a little bit more, it just doesn't really make sense for either sides. Like, Houston's in a situation where they gave away all their picks to acquire Russell Westbrook. So they can't just tank, like
Right.
it just doesn't make it's really interesting to think about to have 3 of the game's most prolific scorers on one team, but I really don't think it makes all that much sense for either sides.
Yeah, and I agree with you from the Rockets perspective, and even from the Nets perspective. This to me is a team that could be could be complete, could be uh, the best team in the Eastern Conference. If that's the case, then it isn't necessary and it isn't advisable. So I don't know that I go there. Lakers and Clippers, another interesting one. I think the final margin was 7, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and here's a team with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard that is absolutely going to threaten the reigning champions, and I believe as far as odds, those are the 2 with the top odds according to Vegas. Those 2, the Nets are of course up there. What do you think of Paul George here? He pulls off, I think, 31 last night.
3.
33. Stand corrected. And he looks like he says, I let the game come to me. I'm not going to be over aggressive. But here's a guy who is reasserting himself after the injury.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely went out and showed why he got that contract extension. Paul George is a great player, and he had a great game, and that Clippers team is really, really good. But I don't think that is a, like, hit the panic button for the Lakers. They
No.
acquired a lot of new players. They're trying out a lot of new sets, and it was a pretty close game against the Clippers, who's probably their toughest opponent in the Western Conference. It was a great game for opening night, but I honestly feel like for the Lakers, you just take that ring you got last year and you put your head down and keep going.
Yeah, and let's say LeBron James with limited minutes too in that game. I don't know that the Lakers are full strength last night, and clearly still, the team to beat in the Western Conference. Couple extensions to touch on here as we come to the end. Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, They both re-up with Orlando. Isaac 4 years, 80 million. Fultz 3 years, 50 million. What do you make of Orlando? They sort of double down on some of the talent they already have in-house.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at these contracts at face value and they say, why did Markelle Fultz just get $50 million? Why did Luke Kennard just get $64 million? And there's a few things you have to consider. One, the NBA salary cap is $110 million now, and teams have to pay 90% of that or make up that money by just paying it to the league. So if you're a team like the Magic, right, why not give that money to a young player like Fultz, who maybe doesn't deserve it, but you're gambling. You're taking a chance on a guy that hasn't lived up to his expectations, and honestly, it could work out.
And they're gonna certainly depend on health from Jonathan Isaac, who could give them some really good defense. Kuzma, going back to the Lakers, Kyle Kuzma, he gets 3 years, $40 million. This is a team that they just want to keep their core in place here. And then to me, the most fascinating extension is Rudy Gobert in Utah. Gets the max, 5 years, 205. This seems like the kind of contract that could hamstring them. I mean, just as far as how far away is this team that they should be giving Rudy Gobert 5 years and $200 million?
Well, Donovan Mitchell's going to keep improving, right? And they've got shooters. They've got shooters, and they've got Rudy Gobert. And that is a good team. That's a very good basketball team. And when you have a very good basketball team, you do whatever you can to keep it intact. But is that a great basketball team? You know, they're now in a situation similar to Portland where they have a lot of good players together, but they're hard capped. That's the roster you're going to see, you know, as long as Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are in town. And, you know, you really hope that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert can grow together. But is that a team that can beat the Lakers? Is that a team that can beat the Clippers? I really don't think so.
You know, I agree with you. And you put yourself in a position where if you need that one more piece, you cannot get it. And that's where I'm sort of a critic here. But, we got Celtics action. Let's check
a big shot. Big shot.
Okay, they're up 12 now at the end of the third quarter here. That's a good sound effect. Celtics 96, Bucks 84. This guy is a true Boston kid. That's wonderful. Knicks now, they're down 15. They're letting this one slip away. It's 116-101 at the end of the fourth here. Magic and Heat. There's a minute left in this game, and it's a 4-point Magic lead. How about a Magic opening night victory? Wizards here, 96-95, 4 minutes to go. Cavs are opening up. Cavs are going to win this game. 20 seconds left over the Hornets, up by 8. And look, Jack, the Celtics are on the way here. What do you think?
I mean, you heard my dad. That says it all. I'm excited for this season. You know, I wish I could have seen what just went down, but you know, it's tough. It's tough when you lose a guy like Hayward. Even in the role that he had, he was so efficient, and you're putting a lot of weight on Tatum and Brown's shoulders. And those are some young players. So if they can pick up that slack, I'm a very, very happy Celtics fan.
All right. There's some optimism. You're probably wishing that you weren't hosting tonight, so you could have it on. But
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Chris.
Okay, good. And look, we'll keep you updated throughout the night. We still have one full quarter in that game. Celtics 101-84. You can take a quick look during our break, and we're gonna hit one right now. On the other side, we'll go into football. We got good Jets and Giants fodder for you. Definitely good Jets conversation. On the other side of this break, one-on-one nightly, he's Jack Roche. I'm Chris Bacci. Our producer is Alec Wolves, and we'll see you in a bit. Back with you on One here. It is December 23rd. We're approaching Christmas. We're approaching the new year. And we have a basketball season underway across the league. Just one cancellation today, but otherwise there's action across the NBA. And we just gave you kind of a full rundown there. Brooklyn. And then we went to the home borough of Manhattan, talked Knicks. And now we're going to go into football. All right. And let's talk about the New York Jets and the story there. They get their first win on Sunday, and it's actually my first time on the airwaves since, so I don't know how I'll behave, Jack. But they get their first win, a stupid win, a meaningless win, a damaging win, a potentially franchise bursting, franchise boomeranging victory about the least productive thing this team could have done was to win a football game. And you know, that's known. That's widespread. Everybody knows it. It's why they're the laughing stock. It's why if you go to Twitter and you're me, you can't not cry a little bit. You can't not break down as you read the tweets that they just come down on you like a volcano, and they make you feel terrible about the fact that you're probably not going to get Trevor Lawrence. And that's where they are. They're probably not going to get Trevor Lawrence. And this entire season, the only thing that has made this not as miserable as it otherwise has been is sort of the light at the end of the tunnel. The same way that with COVID-19, we're talking about the vaccine as the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't want to make a morbid comparison, but here we are, and we're saying, you know, you're losing game after game after game, light at the end of the tunnel. Sometime in April, third Thursday in April, whatever it is, there's going to be a draft, and the Jets are going to land Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson star quarterback, and the fate of the franchise is going to turn forever. That is what has been front and center on the mind of a Jet fan. And I'm wearing green tonight. It's because of Christmas. It's not because of the Jets, because I'm beside myself. But let me just tell you, there's this narrative out there that sort of tells me that I'm not allowed to have this opinion, that I'm supposed to be thrilled that they got a win, that they were able to get a win for some of the young guys in the locker room. I just can't have that perspective. I just can't.
All right, did you got that out of your system?
I got more, but I'll let you cut in.
Well, let me add something. They should have already had a win by now, right? Like, forget about the makeup of this team. That last play against the Raiders should not have happened, right?
Right, of course. Absolutely.
I mean, what was your reaction after that game, after seeing that?
It was relief. It was relief. It was really, well, it was laughter. It was laughter. I was laughing for an hour after it happened. It was a full, like, at least a half hour of just laughter. How they lost that game, that they sent the house and all out blitz it was just, it was comical. And so I got a good laugh out. I still am. And I honestly was sort of convinced that they threw that game, because it just defied logic in so many ways that it felt like somebody made a call to Greg Williams on the sideline and said, call the zero blitz. We'll let a guy get open over the top and we'll lose this game, and we'll be well on our way to the franchise quarterback. And if that was the case, I would actually give them credit for doing something, you know, intelligent for the first time ever, because the thing that could save this franchise is Trevor Lawrence. It may only be Trevor Lawrence, but here's the thing that I'm seeing. I can't remember who it was on ESPN today, but it was Ryan Clark, actually, and just talking about, you know, look, you in a football locker room, you have to be competitive. You have to try to get wins. And all the Jet fans who are bashing the team for getting a win, shame on you. Shame on you. Mekhi Becton, the offensive tackle, the big boy at left tackle, who looks tremendous, by the way, tells me I'm not a real fan because I'm lamenting the fact that the team got a win. That's just not right. That isn't true. the difference between being 1-15 and 0-16, as far as I'm concerned, is nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. You're a pitiful franchise. Whatever the result, 0-16, you make a little bit of history. You join one of the few teams to have ever done it. But to me, if it's the difference between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson from BYU or Justin Fields from Ohio State, then the 1 win versus the 0 wins mean nothing to me. Nothing, Jack. It means nothing to me. So I don't appreciate that I've been a little bit shamed for this position, which, by the way, I know a lot of Jet fans. I have a lot of friends with whom I commiserate. We all agree on this. We all agree.
Well, I can't blame you for having those, those hopes for your team, the savior and Trevor Lawrence. Everyone wants him, right? But I just want to know what your expectations for this Jets team, what they were and how they compared to the rest of the fan base going into the season.
So I've become an eternal pessimist about the Jets after years of watching this team, and they haven't been good in 10 years, obviously, since the early days of Rex Ryan. And I think we could roll the tape on NFL Friday, the football podcast here at FUV said that the Jets were going to be a 3-win team, and I somehow managed to underestimate them. I certainly didn't think that I was, lowballing it, but apparently I was, because unless this team finds a way to win 2 in a row, they're obviously not going to win 3 games. But that take relative to the fan base was pessimistic, because this team, let's not forget, won 7 games last year. They won 7 games last year. So this is a massive slide. This is a massive slide. And I'm also fairly sure that there are games, and you said it earlier, certainly the Oakland game is one. The New England game comes to mind, and there are others that this team could have won if they had a different attitude. But here's the thing. If this was a team that was trying to win games, they would have fired Adam Gase after week 4. You wouldn't have even had to wait till I'm not even exaggerating. You could have done it after week 6, week 8, week 4. Any point in the season you would have had every excuse. Not a person would groan about it, except the man himself, if you fired Adam Gase and said, all right, let's go get a couple wins and inspire some energy here in the locker room. But they made the decision to ride him out. And the only thing that meant was that their goal this year was to lose as many games as possible. And as many games as possible, namely with 16. And to lose 16 games meant that they were going to get the quarterback that I believe Joe Douglas has envisioned as his franchise quarterback. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. I absolutely believe that is the direction that the franchise is taking. Clearly, Adam Gase is not here after week 17 wraps up. He's done on the Monday after. In fact, he should be done the minute the final whistle blows. He should get a call from Joe Douglas who says, don't come in for our Monday meeting. It's over. It's over, Adam. And move on, and just move on. But here's the problem. They don't get this quarterback. And, I don't know what you think, but do you think that this is a team that stands a chance to win another game? They have the Browns this weekend. And then another note is the Jags, because the Jags, if they get a win, the Jets move back to number 1. That's really the hope right now. The Jags have the Bears. The Jets have the Browns. What do you think?
The Jaguars are not going to win another game. I am fully on the train that the Jaguars now have Trevor Lawrence. And Chris, the reason why I wanted to know what your expectations are, like, even if the Jets win their next 2 games, that reaches your pessimistic projection for the team. Even in the worst possible situation with coaching, they're still not an 0-16 team. That's the best thing I can say about the Jets. The most backhanded compliment I can get. They're not an 0-16 team. Maybe they're a 1-15 team, but you can't just will your way to be the worst team in the league.
I see your case. And I think that is really why there was some juice behind this team finding a way to be 0-16 by virtue of having the worst coach in the history of the National Football League. Because you're right, they are not they're not a they're not a true 0-16, an intrinsic 0-16, let's say. They really aren't. They really aren't an intrinsically valued 0-16 team. I agree with that. They won 7 last year. It doesn't make sense that this team could be 7 games worse. But that is how bad this coaching staff, this culture is. Adam Gase, namely. That's how bad he is. It really is that bad. And that tells you all you need to know. But you know, the hope is that you get Trevor Lawrence and this team, even without him, is a true, let's say, 4-win team or 5-win team. And then Lawrence can take a 5-win team to 10 wins. I mean, maybe it doesn't take a year, maybe it takes 2 or 3, but it's certainly the change. And if this is the year of change, if 2020 is the year that was so bad, but gives way to something new, something brighter, something better. I look across town in Queens, I look at the Mets, and they've got Steve Cohen, and they're firing on all cylinders. And we're going to talk a little bit about DJ LeMahieu later. And we got juice on the Mets, and we got a new ownership. We got just new energy. Were the Jets going to have that same turn of fate? Something just told me that they were. And now with their pathetic victory over the Los Angeles Rams, all of that is thrown into whack. And all you can do is laugh at this team. It's all you can do, Jack, is laugh at this team.
Yeah, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, man, but as bad as the Patriots have been, I'm happy that I'm not a Jets fan. And you trade it when I think about it more, like you trade your best player, Jamal Adams, Le'Veon Bell, worst case scenario happened with him in that contract. And Sam Darnold is, I mean, is he the quarterback of the future? If you don't get Trevor Lawrence, man, it is not an enviable position to be in, man.
No, it's not. And I think we were ready to part ways with Sam. It's a shame that it was this quick and this fruitless, but there are other quarterbacks here, and we're going to have to probably start talking about them if and when the number 2 pick is locked in, and that's Fields from Ohio State. And I mentioned the kid Zach Wilson from BYU, who's on a lot of people's radar right now. I don't know a ton about him, but I know that he played really well in the Boca Raton Bowl against Central Florida last night. So we'll keep our eye, but it's just not, that's not going to be giving me the excitement that I've had about Trevor Lawrence for a very long time. Let's go to the NFC East because this is the division that remains to be seen who walks out with the crown on its head. And the New York Giants, after a big Seattle victory, have now lost 2 in a row. And there's a question mark there. This entire division's up in the air. The football team, the Washington football team, are currently in first place. The Dallas Cowboys are in second place. Your take, your outlook on this awful division?
I just feel like everyone is trying to hand it to someone else. Like the Giants are playing well, and then Washington, they're the team to beat. And then Alex Smith goes down, and Dwayne Haskins takes over. And then what does he do? He goes out and breaks COVID guidelines and gets his captain title removed.
Right.
It is the most interesting, mediocre display of football that I've ever witnessed. And it's not going to change anytime soon. The NFC East is going to stay like this for some time unless Jalen Hurts is like the next Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes, man. It's going to be like this for some years to come.
Well, if you look at the football team, they're the only team in the division with a positive point differential, and it's a +7. Everybody else is like, far down there. The Giants, they have the Ravens, the 9-5 Ravens. The Washington football team have the Panthers. The Eagles have the Cowboys. So the Eagles get a win here, and that changes things a lot. But let's say, look, if the Cowboys get a win, it could be the Cowboys. I don't even know. The calculations on this is so tough. Look, Washington plays a Panthers team that's obviously very beatable. So I say they're probably the favorite right now. The thing is that I've never once said on verbal contract over the FUV airwaves that the Giants were going to do it. I don't think they're there. I don't think they're very good. I mean, more importantly, I don't think Daniel Jones is very good. And he's had some injury problems. He was limited in practice today. I think he'll go on Sunday. But when does he step up? If it's not now, it's never. I mean, it's got to be in a division that requires you only to win 6 or 7 games. You got to get that done, and he's got to step up against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend.
Yeah, now is the time. If the football team wins this week and the Giants lose, Washington clinches the division. The Giants came under a lot of fire when they took Daniel Jones at 6. And if he intends to prove that narrative wrong, they had 6 and 17. And I remember talking to Nick DeLuca about this. And Nick DeLuca supported the Giants in taking Daniel Jones. He said, if you've got your guy at 6, you don't wait around until 17. If that's your guy, you got to take him. And Daniel Jones has not been the guy. And he's got 2 games in this season to change that, or the Giants have to start looking for a change themselves.
Well, look, I agree with Nick that you take your guy at 6. You don't wait till 17. Now, whether or not Jones was the guy was the bigger question, because Dwayne Haskins was a bigger prospect. I don't wait till 17 if I need a quarterback, so I get that. Here's the thing. Haskins doesn't look very promising either. That just looks like a quarterback draft class. I mean, it's possible I'm missing somebody in the later rounds, but just a kind of a dud of a class. A good class is really this year's class, if you think about it. And Burrow is obviously hurt, but Herbert looks very good. And I think Tua looks pretty good. So interesting to see. And then, we always tie it back, and Hurts and Jalen Hurts. And then next year, we'll see what happens. It probably a good place to tie the bow. Trevor Lawrence, a Jacksonville Jaguar. I don't know, if I even want one of the secondary guys to be a New York Jet or if it'll be Sam Darnold, but that'll be an evolving conversation. In any case, we're looking at Jacksonville and Chicago. We're looking at Baltimore and New York. We're looking at the Jets this week as well. And they have the Browns, of course. And as far as big NFL games, you have the Titans and the Packers is one to watch. A couple good games this week. But that'll do it for our NFL conversation. Jets and Giants, and just, not good stuff really there. On the other side, this is perfect because we have more NFL for you. I could preview it right there. That's a good game. Like I mentioned, Titans and Packers. We got some other ones. We'll talk Steelers. We'll talk a little Pro Bowl. We'll be back. We'll do 15 minutes on the NFL, and we'll see you in a bit. back to One on One Nightly. I'm Chris Baccio with Jack Roche. Alex Wools is our producer. Midweek one on one for you. Of course, you can find us on Saturday evenings, our new time slot, 11 o'clock to 2 in the morning. But we're here with you in the middle of the week, just meeting and giving you some of the updates of the week. And we want to preview Sunday for you because the NFL is now really in the home stretch, at the end of the home stretch. It's week 16. And there's some fascinating matchups this week, some fascinating conversations. I think the first place to start, Jack, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lose a terrible Monday Night Football game to a bad Bengals team and a backup quarterback, Ryan Finley. And they've now lost 3 in a row. And it's 4 in a row where they haven't scored 20 points. Ben Roethlisberger just, doesn't look like he has command of this offense anymore. And you've got to ask the question, is this team, which won its first 11, is this team not only are they not the best team at this point in the AFC, the Chiefs are 13-1, but I don't think they're the second best team. You have the Bills there. I don't even think they're the third best team because the Titans and Colts and Browns are all a little bit more intriguing to me than the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
Yeah, well, the Steelers come out red hot, 11-0, and then they've got this 3-game skid, right? And Steelers saying they're holding the players only meeting, all the types of discussions of a team that the wheels are falling off at the end of the season. And I see 2 possible scenarios for the Steelers. I see this as an inflection point. They've got 2 tough games coming up, one of them against division rival. I mean, you could call it a rival. They're the 2 best teams in their division, the Browns and the Steelers, or the wheels just keep falling off and the Browns overtake you in the standings. The Colts are better than you. That's who they're facing off against this week. The Titans. I mean, this AFC is no joke. And if the Steelers don't get their act together, they're getting left in the dust.
That's right. And, they lose this week and then they get Cleveland. And they got a tough Colts team this week. And so if they manage to drop the last 2 games, it looked like this division was a lock for them, but they don't even get the division. One way or another, the Cleveland Browns are going to the playoffs for the first time since 2002, I believe it is. So a team that just has been so pitiful for so long, and they are just really good this year. They are really good this year, and they got off to a little bit of a rocky start. I think Baltimore killed them early, and, I wasn't sure about them. But they've really asserted themselves as a very serious team. I'd be excited to see them in postseason play. Here's the bizarre thing, though. After what the Jets did last week, I don't know that the Browns are a lock to win on Sunday. I think they could lose their 5th game, and I think it could come from the New York Jets. And that would really complicate things. Or it wouldn't complicate things, because if Pittsburgh loses to the Colts, which I'm picking, I think the Colts beat the Steelers, then you've got a divisional game for all the marbles, Browns and Steelers, in week 17. And wouldn't we all want to watch that?
So let me get this straight.
But it's a bit of a long shot. I mean, I understand that.
Let me get this straight.
I'm not.
The Jets beat the Browns this week.
Right.
Now, is that because you've got a hunch? Is that because the Browns are, they just, they're playing too well. It's too good to be true. Or, this is my favorite theory of all, now that they're out of the sweepstakes, they show their true identity and become the dominant football team that they are.
Well, what would be really the icing on the cake is if the Jets managed to get a second win, and so did the Jags. If the Jags, because we got our eyes on Jags and Bears this week, because if the Jags get a win, the Jets with a loss would move back to the number one slot and all would be peaceful in the world. And we could pretend that I didn't just, have a bit of a rant there on the Jets because everything would be fine. But an unbelievable scenario that's sort of cooking up in my head is that the Jets get a win and the Jaguars get a win. The odds of that happening are very low, but it's football's weird. And you can that's just the type of thing that would happen, That's just the way I think.
And then if the Jets win their next 2 games, then they meet your prediction.
My 3-game prediction. So look, I do have pretty sharp predictions usually. So maybe that's what happens. Another team, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, they clinch a playoff berth with a win. They're a team that's been up and down. I don't know about them in the playoffs, but certainly Tom Brady in the playoffs is a different animal. You know that far better than I do, or as well as I do, being on the other side. Although the Jets did get a big win against Tom Brady that I remember very fondly. Arizona has San Francisco. Miami at 9-5. They have the Raiders. The Raiders are done. They're 7-7. Indianapolis, we talked about. They got the Steelers. Who do you take? Colts, Steelers. Game of the week.
Give me the Colts. I just, man, that defense is really good. And if you're the Steelers and you put up 17 points against the Bengals, how many points are you going to put up against Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner? I'm excited. Jonathan Taylor's finally got it going post-COVID. Phillip Rivers has been, an interesting player. It's always weird to see him in a Colts jersey, but I really am confident in the Colts getting a win against Pittsburgh this week.
And how about we talked about the Steelers and Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy who honestly has been, I've got him on my fantasy team, a little underwhelming, needed a little more out of him, but a guy who dances on logos and makes a really big deal about it, puts it on TikTok. And it's a pretty funny routine, but then he gets laid out and he's getting called out. And he says today, I'm actually going to be done with the TikTok filming on the opponent's logo, mostly because apparently it's a passion of his. It's a little bit bizarre. He loves to do it, but it seems like now his teammates are getting asked about it. His coach is getting asked about it. He's putting everybody in an uncomfortable position. And I can't believe we're having this conversation. It's very 2020, but he says he's done with the TikToks on the logo. Your thoughts?
Chris, I'm telling you, this is bad news. This is bad news.
Why is this bad news?
In your background, you've got some baseball memorabilia. I'm a baseball fan. I played baseball growing up. And baseball players we've got routines, right? I always had a lucky pair of socks. Certain guys wear something in the back pocket. And Juju filmed his TikToks before the game. That was his thing. And if they're getting rid of that, I don't know. Maybe it's a bad omen.
Well, it didn't work for them against Cincinnati. His routine did not work against Cincinnati. I think it's time for it to be retired. I do.
I don't know. I don't know.
I do. I think it is. I think it is time. Another game here. If we look at the Sunday 4:00 slot, Rams, Seahawks. Rams got to get a win. I mean, after that Jet loss, but obviously to vault themselves back into first place, it would be critical. But my pick from a couple weeks ago, Seahawks to get out of the NFC, I am staying with it. I'm not sure about Seattle. They've been vulnerable defensively. But this is still Russell Wilson's team. It's still his division. Frankly, to me, it's his conference. I mean, obviously you have Green Bay and New Orleans there, but I think the Seahawks find a way to do it this weekend against LA, who really have felt all year like they've been playing above their level, and I credit that to McVay, who's an excellent head coach. But Jared Goff, if you saw him last week, looked helpless, just helpless against a really bad team, a really bad team. So I think the Seahawks find a way this weekend, and I think they win this division. And I'm gonna double down and say I do think that they are in the Super Bowl this year.
How much did it sting to see Jamal Adams in his post-game presser be like, "Man, I'm just not used to this," after they clinched the playoffs? How much did that hurt?
Yeah, it hurts. Everything Jamal does really hurts because he just seems like he's got a breath of fresh air in Seattle. And look, I'm happy for him. I like the guy, but and we don't have to get into this rabbit hole, but it's just a real representation of everything that's wrong with the franchise. The fact that Jamal Adams won't retire a New York Jet it's just a disgrace.
And you know what? He's not playing particularly well
No,
in
no,
Seattle.
I know that, but I think when the playoffs come, he's never played in the playoffs. I can't imagine that he doesn't turn it on. Titans and Packers. This is the game we talked about before we hit the break, and a good one. Sunday Night Football, and this is obviously interconference. I like this game a lot. I like the Titans a lot. This matchup's really interesting because you've got two of the best runners in football, in Aaron Jones and in Derrick Henry. I think the Titans find a way because this is a Packers team, by the way, that has, I want to say, I don't want to get the number wrong, but I think they have 3 wins against teams above 500. And they just haven't beat good teams enough to prove to me that they can do it. I think the Titans are their biggest test. And I think Tennessee's going to give them a tough time. I think Tennessee wins.
Yeah, yeah, you got two good rushers, Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry, looking to get to that 2,000-yard point, which is insane. What he does week in and week out is just absurd. You were talking about earlier how Tom Brady turns it on in the playoffs, and I had the opportunity to see Tom Brady's last game in New England against the Titans, and man, he's just, the things that he does, like words don't do justice. He is like a linebacker at that running back position, and I mean he's gonna pose some serious problems to that Packers defense.
He's a guy, and the fascinating thing about him is, did you know that he's a vegan? Were you aware of that?
The Titans, they have you seen the Game Changers documentary? It's like
No.
a plant-based doc, and the whole
Uh-huh.
Titans team is, or a good chunk of the Titans team is on a plant-based diet.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think it's going to test the theory of the fact that running backs they just don't have a long shelf life. Is it possible that we're talking about Derrick Henry as being one of the top runners in football 10 years from now or 20 because he's on a plant-based diet? I don't know. That's just a theory of mine. Maybe he is more sustainable on the plants. I don't know. I don't know, but he's trying something different. We've seen so many good running backs just have their spurt for a couple years, and then that's sort of it. The last game to hit on here is Monday Night Football. Buffalo, New England, your New England Patriots, who will not be going to the playoffs for the first time in forever. And a Buffalo Bills team that is formidable at 11-3. Absolutely formidable.
Yeah.
What are you doing at quarterback at the end of this year?
Man, it's just so hard to like get a read on what Bill Belichick is trying to do. It's like one week I'm like, oh, they're just trying to get a worse pick. Maybe Cam's the quarterback of the future. We've never been, as a Patriots fan, I've never been in this situation before where you're on the outside looking in. You can't make the playoffs. So what do you do? Do you win the games? Do you lose the games? I really have no idea what Bill Belichick is going to do. But my gut is telling me that it's going to be competitive this week.
Yeah, I know that spot of saying, should we win? Do I want to see them get a couple wins, get a little dignity, get a little momentum into next year, or do I want to lose for the pick? That's my dilemma every year, Jack. I deal with that question every year for a decade. So,
Hasn't worked
welcome.
out.
Not well, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that whatever happens, I hope that it doesn't make you happy. I hope that either you guys beat the Bills and you're upset because you realize how many picks you just lost out on, or you guys get crushed by the Bills and it upsets you. I can't wish well to a Patriots fan. I can't. I just can't
Just
sincerely
hope
do
for
that.
many years of pain and suffering.
That's right. That's right. So that's the NFL. On the other side, we'll do a little baseball. John Heyman says the Mets gave a phone call to DJ LeMahieu. This is very interesting. And all of a sudden, the Mets are creeping up on the New York Yankees as the kings of town. We'll talk baseball on the other side. You're listening to One on One Nightly. Welcome back to One on One Nightly. This is New York's longest running sports call-in show, our midweek version. I'm Chris Baccia with Jack Roche, Alex Woles, our producer, taking you till 10:30 this evening. And Jack is located in Boston. That is his virtual via satellite coming in on Zoom, not satellite, Zoom. Your update on the Boston Celtics tonight.
Well, you didn't hear any reactions from my family this time. We got the news on break, but Tatum hit a big three to put them up with less than a second. And final score, Celtics 122, Bucks 121. So, I don't want to touch on our next segment too much, but the Christmas gift is well on its way.
Yeah, talk about a big opening night win by 1 point. I wish we could roll the footage for you. Knicks lose to the Pacers, 121-107 final. It's certainly good to have the NBA back in the mix, and it feels a little bit more legitimate than some of the seasons. The 2020 seasons, baseball was a shortened season. The NBA went right to the playoff environment. It feels like we're starting something fresh here, and there's a little bit of excitement in that. It's 2021. We're going to turn the page pretty soon, and it's the holidays. Let's talk baseball, though. DJ LeMahieu has become a really intriguing thing because the Yankees just haven't seized this. They haven't jumped on this the way I would have thought. If I had a guess, the Yankees would have made this their first order of business. By all accounts, from Cashman, from Boone, it is the priority. It is the top priority, as it should be, as it must be. but they haven't got it done. So I don't know if they're haggling over the details. We don't necessarily know. But John Heyman says last night that the Mets made a contact with DJ LeMahieu and that they're going to keep that option open for them as they scour the entire free agent market and are a serious player for really anybody. They seem to be defining the market. They seem to be the team that is a wild card that anybody expects to jump in on any one. They've already made their move at catcher. They get James McCann, 4 years, $40 million. How serious, how real is DJ LeMahieu to the Mets? How worried do the Yankees have to be, Jack?
Well, let's get one thing straight. Even if the Yankees bring back DJ LeMahieu, they're a very talented team, but they've got some gaping holes that need to be addressed, especially that starting pitching. So if DJ LeMahieu really is carrying a 5-year, $125 million price tag from the Mets, I'm gonna reach out, and the fit might not make a ton of sense. And when I hear this rumor, I almost think like, are they playing mind games with the Yankees? Are they either trying to drive up his price? Are they trying to just, engage in this rivalry? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I kind of feel the same way. I think that they're definitely in the Yankees' head. Uh, maybe not Brian Cashman and Yankees ownership, but certainly the Yankee fan is walking around a little bit nervous. Are we going to get DJ LeMahieu? If I'm a Yankee fan, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit scared because DJ LeMahieu has been the best player on this team the last couple of years, and that lineup without him is a little bit hard to imagine. The Mets, on the other hand, this would be an addition. This would be a gift. This would be a present under the Christmas tree. For the Yankees, it's a necessity as far as I'm concerned. It's a critical part of this team, critical part of what they do. The Mets add him, and it sort of raises some questions about how you even deploy him because he goes to second base. McNeil would probably slide over to third. Then there's question marks about J.D. Davis. Do we like him in left field? I don't think I do. We don't really, it's sort of a joke that MLB won't say if there's a designated hitter or not. That certainly would play to the Mets' benefit. But needless to say, LeMahieu to the Mets is not, he's not a piece that lineup necessarily needs because he fits already really what Jeff McNeil does. But it would be a real gift, and it would certainly rob the Yankees of something. I feel like the upside to it is more what you could take away from the New York Yankees, and you could really hamstring this team. And bottom line is the theme has changed. The roles have reversed. We are talking about the Mets a lot more than we are about the New York Yankees as far as being a player for the biggest guys in the market.
Yeah, I mean, Cohen, it's certainly yet to be seen if he's going to open those pockets. And I think that the Mets fan base, the Mets organization is under the impression that he's going to make at least one more impact move, right? So you look at the market right now, and there's 4 guys. There's Real Muto. Mets are out on him. They already got a catcher. So you got Trevor Bauer, George Springer, and DJ LeMahieu. And I got to say, I really think DJ is the odd man out if you're going to get 2 of those guys. It just is much more of a natural fit to have George Springer in center field. And I really think the Mets need a pitcher of the caliber of Trevor Bauer more than they need a guy like DJ LeMahieu.
No, you're absolutely right. And you're right about the positionally, how it shakes things up in a way that doesn't make much sense. If you're getting 2 out of those 3 guys, you're pulling off one of the best off seasons in recent memory. I mean, you're pulling off something extraordinary. You're getting the Cy Young winner, and obviously that's going to be the big price tag. I think the next piece might not be Springer or LeMahieu, but it could be Marcell Ozuna, although there are certainly question marks with his glove. But it could be, I'm willing to say, get Bauer, cut your big check for Trevor Bauer, and then I'll concede to a second tier outfielder, preferably somebody who does have a good glove because it's been such a problem for the Mets. But that's an area where I'd make a compromise. To me, you've got to shore up the top of the rotation. It is the heart of this team. It is what you do best. But there are problems there. There are real problems there because after Jacob deGrom, you're certainly hopeful that you're going to get a good year out of Marcus Stroman. You're going to get some health out of Noah Syndergaard. Hopefully he's back by June, you would hope. And, you hope you get good years out of them, but I don't know that it's a lock. I don't know that it's a guarantee. So I think adding a Bauer goes such a long way for this team. You mentioned other needs for the Yankees. I'm kind of curious there. Do you think they're in the market for, we talked about Yu Darvish, somebody who could be on the trade block? Luis Castillo. I don't know if this is a Yankee team that makes a strike elsewhere if they're in the market for, let's say LeMahieu does go to, if it's not the Mets, the Toronto Blue Jays are really a player for him. Do the Yankees strike a deal for a Francisco Lindor? What is their secondary market? I think we have a pretty good idea of what the Mets are doing. Yankees, they're a little bit more under the radar, but that they're cooking something up. They want a pennant. They want a World Series.
Yeah, the Yankees are not going to sit idle through this offseason. No. And I think you nailed it. I think that Luis Castillo is a guy that's got to be at the top of the Yankees list because, they're the richest franchise in the sport, but they still, the Red Sox are a huge market team and they got rid of Mookie Betts because of money. I don't think that the Yankees are going to have that same Garrett Cole approach to get another, high profile free agent. And you look around at, younger, affordable pitchers that teams are willing to part ways with. And you look at Cincinnati and Luis Castillo is the guy. They made their push. Trevor Bauer's most likely gone. It seems like the Reds are going to be somewhat of sellers. So I think he's certainly a guy that we're going to see rumored to the Yankees. And it really seems with all this DJ LeMahieu buzz, it needs to be a priority for them to either bring him back. And if they don't, that really forces their hand to go out and make a move like bring in Francisco Lindor.
Yeah, it really does seem like no matter how you slice it, LeMahieu is move one, and then move two, you sort of break from there. But LeMahieu is the thing you have to have, and that you probably can't compromise on. He's so comfortable in Yankee Stadium. He's had so much success there. It's just too obvious. It is sad to see the Cincinnati Reds as sellers after a good year. That's just sad to me, the way that baseball really is, where they're not even going to be players for Trevor Bauer. But Bauer's market, if I had to guess, is going to play out over a long period of time. The Mets are in contact with him. There's already been some public comments from both Sandy Alderson, the team president, from Bauer himself, who's sort of a personal representative, very public. But when it's all said and done, it feels like an expectation right now that the Mets are going to make a big move. If it's not Bauer, then it has to be Springer or LeMahieu. But to me, I remain pretty dug in that the latter option B, LeMahieu or Springer, is really inferior to option A, which is Trevor Bauer. I really feel that way. Just as far as need, I think that this offense is really good. And you're talking about it being really good with Pete Alonso having a down year. Pete Alonso comes back and hits a lot of home runs in Citi Field next year. I'll tell you that. He had a tough year, but he comes back and he gets his act together. And I think the Mets are a real competitor, but they have work to do. And they certainly look like they're willing to put in the work. They're willing to get it done. And I'm very excited. We will keep you abreast with all of that on one-on-one. Hopefully by Saturday there's something, but it looks like the baseball offseason is going to move at a snail's pace. So we'll be with you all winter, letting you know what the Mets are doing and breaking it down. That's our baseball segment. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit of holidays, our Christmas list as we move toward Christmas Eve. That's tomorrow. It's in a couple hours. You're listening to One on One Nightly with Jack Roche. I'm Chris Baccia. See you in a bit. Welcome back to One on One Nightly. I'm Chris Baccia with Jack Roche. We are here with you for another 13 minutes, taking you till 10:30 on this 23rd of December. Christmas is here. You get the music, the carols, the movies, the energy, the juice. Tough year, very tough year. But Christmas is here, and I heard you got a Christmas list. I got a Christmas list. Let us know what you got. What are you sending to the North Pole as far as sports requests?
Well, tonight definitely made me a bit more confident in what I wanted, right? So let me paint a picture here. Hayward leaves. I'm a huge Celtics fan. Love the Celtics, and I got to say, in the city of Boston, some of our teams are falling off a bit. Sox, not what they used to be. Patriots, not what they used to be. So the Celtics, that's my hope right now. And they're a young team. And a big – something I really want is Tatum and Brown to really become what Los Angeles has in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Last year, we kind of saw like a back and forth. There were nights when Tatum was great. There were nights when Jaylen Brown was great. And I think they're two young ascending stars that can coexist. But what I want is the two of them combined to average over 50 points a game. So throughout this broadcast, I was getting live updates from my dad on the Celtics game. You may have heard a bit of chatter throughout the night. And Jaylen Brown, 33 points. Jason Tatum, 30 points, combined for 63 and a big win over the best team in the Eastern Conference. So it looks like it's going to be a good year for the Celtics.
By the looks of it. By the looks of it. And what a game there. Let me stay. Well, no, let me go because you're in Boston.
Yeah.
We're based in New York here.
Let's talk New York sports.
this is one-on-one. This is New York's longest running sports calling show, not Boston's.
Not Boston.
And when I say New York, I think the important place to look right now is Jacksonville. For me, on my wish list, and number one on my wish list is that the Jacksonville Jaguars find a way to get a win against the Chicago Bears. And I know we talked about it a lot before. I don't know if this is possible. I think it is. I mean, I've seen crazier things. Mitch Trubisky in Chicago, not a good quarterback. But a Bears team that actually has something to play for. They're 7-7. There's a way that they get in with 9 wins. They get a wild card spot. So they've got something to play for. They've got something to win for. The Jaguars have something to lose for, which is maintaining their number 1 overall pick, which they control their destiny over keeping that pick. So by all accounts, this is a game that the Jaguars have no business winning. But if there's one franchise that feels as pitiful as the Jets and as vulnerable to making such an abysmal error, which would be to win a game, it would be them. And so there is some hope that they lose this game, that they win this game, rather. We got everything reversed. Winning is bad. Winning is good. For them, winning would be bad. For the Jets, winning would be great. If the Jags find a way to beat the Bears, I'm happy again. And of course, the Jets will have to lose to the Browns, which they should. But that's my wish for Christmas. I really hope that there's a way this happens. I know I'm asking for a lot, but that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm wishing for this Christmas.
Chris, you know what you want for Christmas?
What's that?
You want a little Minshew mania. That's what you want for Christmas.
That's right. That's right. I didn't even know. I was honestly browsing here because I didn't know if it was Minshew or if it was Glennon, because they're so bad and they've just gotten worse and worse. I think it is Minshew this week, and I hope. I like Gardner Minshew. I like the mustache. I hope that he's got a little magic. And I hope the Jets get Trevor Lawrence. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about like the AFC race or all these wild card and playoff races, and it looks like equally entertaining. It's going to be this race to the bottom. Do the Jaguars hold on to it? Do the Jets catch up? Like it's just It's like the Opposite Day episode of SpongeBob.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And you have your New England Patriots who might find themselves slipping and drafting higher than you ever have in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now I know what it's like for the rest of the league. You know, this is how it goes. The natural cycle of competition,
I don't think you quite know. I don't think you quite know.
Not yet.
If you lose for 10 more years in a row, then I'll say, yeah, now you know.
I'll give you a text.
You have another wish on your sports list or your real list?
I mean,
that was it. You only came with one.
Well, how about this? What'd you come with?
I got one. You go.
Well, I'm I'm a big sports fan, but another passion of mine deep down, I'm a big Nintendo fan.
Nice.
Nintendo fan, and play a lot of Pokemon Go, and I want a little gadget that enables me to play Pokemon Go without exposing my hands to the cold throughout this chilly winter. So, I got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, what about you? Any Pokemon Go for you?
No, uh, no, I don't have anything of that sort. I will say this on a sports wish. Um, you know, maybe this is a little sentimental, but when I can go into a ballpark for the first time, and I certainly hope that comes this summer. I certainly hope. Um, if that comes, I gotta say, there is going to be some real emotion. That's going to be something else. Watching, you got the whole. I kind of forgot what it was like. I forgot the smell. I forgot the how clean the grass is cut. Just it's a really wonderful thing, and my wish is that that comes true. That we can have a little bit of baseball this summer. I don't think we're going to get basketball in arenas. Certainly not this winter, but perhaps by the end of the year, come playoffs. But obviously, this is a general wish for the world, for humanity, for our society, is that we can overcome this virus that we haven't been shy about talking about on the air here, because it's defined so much of our lives. The reason that we're on Zoom and we're not in the Bronx right now in a studio without the worry and the fear. But when it's all said and done, to me, a great symbol of that for someone who is a massive sports fan will be being in the building with diehard fans of the team. And I think we're all going to be crying a little bit. I think it's going to be incredibly emotional for all we've been through, and to be able to watch baseball again, the crack of the bat. I mean, the smell of popcorn. Come on, I could get emotional just thinking about it.
Chris, you should give up your hopes of being a sports media guy and just become a poet.
You think so?
Yeah, and
Look,
one question for you.
yeah, go
What was
ahead.
the last game that you went to? Like any live sports game?
That's the last live sports game that I was at. Um, must have been fall of 2019, because I was actually in I was in Italy, studying in Italy that spring. We got sent home March the 5th. So I hadn't been to a game, but I was certainly planning on seeing Juve, on seeing Juventus in Italy. Was super stoked. But I didn't get to a game in Italy. I was only there for 5 weeks before we got sent home. Um, so the last game must have been the fall, and I'm just gonna guess that it was a Met game. It wouldn't have been a Jet game. I would think I was at, because I'm at Citi Field a good amount. It's a 162 game year. I'm there a good bit, and I was at it was probably, the last live game was probably with an FUV credential, if I had to guess, at a Met game in the clubhouse. At the time, Mickey Callaway was the manager. Probably went up to Pete Alonso's locker, got a couple words from him. I mean, it really is. You kind of realize, how much you take for granted. What a cool thing that is. How about you?
My last game was actually FUV Knicks versus Jazz game. This was just a few days before
Hmm.
none other than Rudy Gobert would
Oh,
test
wow.
positive. So
Yeah.
I want to say this was like five days. Yeah, I'm sure you could find the stamps, the receipts to prove me
Right.
wrong or right, but it was before we even knew what the heck was going on, how you could get it, how long the
Yeah.
transmission period is. And I'm like, did I just get COVID-19 from Rudy Gobert? So
You didn't
that
you didn't you didn't see him, did you? You okay.
well, I was it wasn't any like locker room capacity, but this was my first MSG game, and
Uh-huh.
I'm on the court. I remember him working,
Yeah.
down low in the post, and I'm like right there. I'm like, what?
Quite the height differential, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was on my tippy toes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, needless to say, the sort of experience that we have here at FUV, that just, you kind of tell people that you get the chance to do that. You're on the floor at the Garden, and they're like, "What, you're on the floor at the Garden?" It's really incredible. It's really incredible. Um, and we await the day that we get it back. We really do. So maybe
That's
maybe
my Christmas gift right there.
I think that's our Christmas wish from both of us, from all of us here at WFUV, because it's been a year of adjustment. I got to say, I'm proud of the program, of what we've been able to do in tough circumstances. We're on Zoom. We've really found a way. Credit to our sports manager, Manuel Barbari. Credit to Bobby Chaffardini, our director. Credit to Alex Wolves, who's got us going digitally. I mean, completely transformed what we do, and for the better of the future. But how excited are we to be back behind the microphones in Keating Hall at WFUV in the Bronx? We divulged, we talked a little there. We let it go where we let it went. And I'm thinking about Christmas and I'm getting a little sentimental. But that's the story. We almost have a wrap on 2020. One-on-one comes back on Saturday. You'll hear from the guys for 3 hours. Nick DeLuca, Jimmy Sullivan, good guys to give you sports on Saturday evening. This has been our midweek one-on-one nightly for Jack Roche. I'm Chris Baccia. Alex Wolves was our producer. One-on-one is a production of WFUV Sports. Good night.